Munamai ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Srimati Tulsi Maharani ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Holy Appearance Day of Gadadhara Pandit ki jai, Nitsai Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Pralada Lada Daine. Kashi Purvakshaha Shila Tankana Kalaye Ito Nirsima Parato Nirsimo Yato Yato Yamitato Nirsima Bahir Nirsima Hridaye Nirsimo Narasimha Madim Sharanam Prapadye Karakamalavare Nakam Adbhuta Shringam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubringam Keshavajita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Keshavajita Narari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Keshavajita Narari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Narasimha Dev Jaya Narasimha Dev Jaya Narasimha Dev Jaya Narasimha Dev Narasimha Dev Jaya Narasimha Dev Jaya Narasimha Dev Jaya Narasimha Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Nrsimhadev Bhagavan ki jai. Prahlad Maharaj ki jai.
Hare Krishna. We welcome you on the auspicious occasion of Sri Gadadhara Pandit's appearance day. Sri Gadadhara Pandit is one of the members of the Panchatattva, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivas Adigaur Bhaktivinoda. And he is considered the incarnation of Srimati Radharani and also Srimati Lalita Devi. So I will begin by singing the Mangalacharana prayers and leading a short kirtan, and then we will read about Sri Gadadhara Pandit from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavangsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vidangscha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Srila Guru Deva. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Pariprajakacharya Stotra Satasri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Iskcon founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Pariprajakacharya Stotra Satasri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadigaur Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. To begin, we shall read from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 16. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gora Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gora Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gora Bhakta Vrinda. So Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 16, the Lord's attempt to go to Vrindavan. And I'll just read a small portion from the chapter summary. Maharaj Pratap Rudra made various arrangements for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's trip to Vrindavan. When he crossed the river Chitrapala, Ramananda Rai, Madharaj, and Harichandan went with him. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu requested Gadadhara Pandit to go to Nilachal, Jagannath Puri, but he did not abide by this order. From Cuttack, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again requested Gadadhara Pandit to return to Nilachal, and he bade farewell to Ramananda Rai from Bhadrak. Text 78. To save time, I won't read the Bengali. Pundarik Vidyanidhi initiated Gadadhar Pandit for the second time. So Gadadhar Pandit is Srimati Radharani, and Pundarik Vidyanidhi is Srimati Radharani's mother, Kirtida. And so in Chaitanya Lila, Pundarik Vidyanidhi became the spiritual master of Gadadhar Pandit. So the chapter describes how Lord Chaitanya was leaving for Vrindavan, and we come to text 130. Gadadhara Pandit Yabe Sangete Chalila Kshetra Sanyasana Chadiha Prabhu Nishedila. Translation. When Gadadhara Pandit started to go with the Lord, he was forbidden to come and was asked not to give up the vow of Kshetra Sannyas. Purport. When one takes Kshetra Sannyas, he leaves his household life and goes to a place of pilgrimage devoted to Lord Vishnu. Such places include Purushottama Kshetra, Jagannath Puri, Navadvip Dham, and Mathura Dham. The Kshetra Sannyasi lives in these places alone or with his family. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur considers Kshetra Sannyas to be the preferable vanaprastha situation in the age of Kali. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya lived in this way, and he has been called a Kshetra Sannyasi. That is, a sannyasi living in Jagannath Puri. 131. When he was requested to return to Jagannath Puri, Gadadhara Pandit told the Lord, "Wherever you are staying is Jagannath Puri. Let my so-called Kshetra Sannyas go to hell." 132. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Gadadhara Pandit to remain at Jagannath Puri and engage in Gopinath service, Gadadhara Pandit replied, "One renders service to Gopinath 1,000,000 times simply by seeing your lotus feet." Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "If you abandon his service, it will be my fault. It is better you remain here and render service. That will be my satisfaction." The Pandit replied, "Do not worry. All the faults will be on my head. I shall not accompany you, but shall go alone." 135. "I shall go to see Sachimata, but I shall not go for your sake. I shall be responsible for the abandoning of my vow and service to Gopinath." Thus Gadadhara Pandit Goswami traveled alone, but when they arrived at Cuttack, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu called him, and he went into the Lord's presence. No one can understand the loving intimacy between Gadadhara Pandit and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Gadadhara Pandit gave up his vow and service to Gopinath, just as one gives up a piece of straw. Purport. Just to get Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's association, Gadadhara Pandit gave up his life's vow to engage in Gopinath service. This kind of loving affection can be understood only by very confidential devotees. Ordinarily, no one can understand its purport. 138. Gadadhara Pandit's behavior was very pleasing to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's heart. Nevertheless, the Lord took his hand and spoke to him, displaying the anger of love. "You have abandoned Gopinath service and broken your vow to live in Puri. All that is now complete because you have come so far. Your wanting to go with me is simply a desire for sense gratification. In this way, you are breaking two religious principles, and because of this, I am very unhappy. If you want my happiness, please return to Nilachal, Jagannath Puri. You will simply condemn me if you say any more about this matter. Saying this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu got into a boat, and Gadadhara Pandit immediately fell down in an unconscious state. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ordered Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya to take Gadadhara Pandit with him. The Bhattacharya told Gadadhara Pandit, "Get up. Such are the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You should know that Lord Krishna himself violated his own promise just to keep the promise of grandfather Bhishma. Swanigamam apayamat pratigyam ritam adikartam apluto ratastata trita rata charano bhyayat chadagur harir ivahantum ibram gato tarya." Translation: intending to make my promise true, Lord Krishna broke his own promise not to take up a weapon at Kurukshetra. With his outer garment falling off, Lord Sri Krishna jumped from his chariot, picked up a wheel, and came running at me to kill me. Indeed, he rushed at me like a lion going to kill an elephant, and he caused the whole earth to tremble. Purport: Lord Krishna promised not to fight in the battle of Kurukshetra or even take up a weapon. But when Bhishma wanted to keep his own promise, to break the promise of the Lord immediately got down from the chariot, and to make Bhishma's promise true, he picked up a chariot wheel and rushed forward to kill him. This is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 1:9-37. Text 146. Similarly, tolerating your separation, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has protected your vow with great endeavor. In this way, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya revived Gadadhara Pandit. Then both of them, very much grief-stricken, returned to Jagannath Puri, Nilachal. All the devotees would abandon all kinds of duties for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's sake. Yet the Lord did not like the devotees giving up their promised duties. All these are misgivings of loving affairs. Whoever listens to these incidents gets Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's shelter very soon. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Sri Gadadhara Pandit ki jai. Next, I'll read a very instructive section from later in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya Lila, chapter 7. Lord Chaitanya meets Vallabha Bhatta. So Vallabha Bhatta, who later came to be known as Vallabhacharya, had some pride, and he approached Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saying that he had written a commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam that surpassed the commentary of the original commentator on Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Sridhar Swami. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chided him and said that one who is not faithful to his Swami, and here there's a play on words because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was referring to Sridhar Swami, but Swami also is a way of referring to one's husband. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, one who is not faithful to one's Swami is a prostitute. And how can I hear from a prostitute? So, Sri Chaitanya, this is text 140. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always eager to see everyone in the material world happy. Therefore, sometimes he chastises someone just to purify his heart. When Vallabha invited Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, the Lord was very pleased with him. Jagadananda Pandit's pure ecstatic love for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very deep. It can be compared to the love of Satyabhama, who always quarreled with Lord Krishna. Jagadananda Pandit was accustomed to provoking loving quarrels with the Lord. There was always some disagreement between them. Gadadhara Pandit's pure ecstatic love for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was also very deep. It was like that of Rukmini Devi, who was always especially submissive to Krishna. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sometimes desired to see Gadadhara Pandit's affectionate anger, but because of knowledge of the Lord's opulences, his anger was never invoked. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Joking with Rukmini Devi in Dwarka, Krishna once advised her to accept another husband because he thought himself unfit for her. Rukmini Devi, however, unable to understand his joking words, took them very seriously and immediately fell to the ground in fear of separation from him. In the pastimes of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jagadananda Pandit was always in disagreement with the Lord, like Satyabhama, whereas Gadadhara Pandit was always awed by the Lord's opulence and was therefore submissive to the Lord under all circumstances. 146. For this purpose, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sometimes showed his apparent anger. Hearing of this anger inspired great fear in the heart of Gadadhara Pandit. Previously, in Krishna Lila, when Lord Krishna wanted to joke with Rukmini Devi, she took his words seriously, and fear awoke within her mind. Vallabha was accustomed to worshipping the Lord as child Krishna, Balagopal. Therefore, he had been initiated into the Balagopal mantra and was thus worshipping the Lord. In the association of Gadadhara Pandit, his mind was converted, and he dedicated his mind to worshipping Kishore Gopal, Krishna as a youth. Vallabha wanted to be initiated by Gadadhara Pandit, but Gadadhara Pandit refused, saying, "The work of acting as a spiritual master is not possible for me. I am completely dependent. My Lord is Gaurachandra, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I cannot do anything independently without his order." My dear Vallabhabhata, your coming to me is not appreciated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, he sometimes speaks to chastise me. So this is a very delicate situation because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was neglecting Vallabhabhata because of his pride. But Vallabhabhata was constantly approaching Gadadhara Pandit in such a humble and submissive way that Gadadhara Pandit found it difficult to neglect him, although Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was neglecting him. And some of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's associates questioned Gadadhara Pandit's behavior, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is neglecting him, but you're entertaining him. So this is Gadadhara Pandit speaking. My dear Vallabhabhata, your coming to me is not appreciated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, he sometimes speaks to chastise me. Some days passed, and when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, finally pleased with Vallabhabhata, accepted his invitation, the Lord sent Swarup Damodar, Jagadananda Pandit, and Govinda to call for Gadadhara Pandit. On the way, Swarup Damodar said to Gadadhara Pandit, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to test you. Therefore, he neglected you. Why did you not retaliate by reproaching him? Why did you fearfully tolerate his criticism? Gadadhara Pandit replied, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is independent completely. He is the topmost omniscient personality. It would not look well for me to talk to him as if his equal. I can tolerate whatever he says, bearing it upon my head. He will automatically be merciful to me after considering my faults and attributes. After saying this, Gadadhara Pandit went to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and fell down crying at the lotus feet of the Lord. Smiling slightly, the Lord embraced him and spoke sweet words so that others would also hear. I wanted to agitate you, the Lord said, but you did not become agitated. Indeed, you could not say anything angry. Instead, you tolerated everything. Your mind was not disturbed by my tricks. Rather, you stayed fixed in your simplicity. In this way, you have purchased me. No one can describe the characteristics and ecstatic love of Gadadhara Pandit. Therefore, another name for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Gadadhara Prananath, the life and soul of Gadadhara Pandit. No one can say how merciful the Lord is to Gadadhara Pandit, but people know the Lord is Gadadhara Gaura, the Lord Gauranga of Gadadhara Pandit. Gadadhara Pandit is celebrated all over the world for his gentle behavior, his Brahminical attributes, and his steady love for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are very deep. Who can understand them? Only one who has firm, deep devotion to his lotus feet. Another day, Gadadhara Pandit invited Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to dinner. The Lord took prasad at his home with his personal associates. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments that Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu acted as a very merciful well-wisher toward Vallabhabhata by externally neglecting him in many ways to purify him of his false pride in being a learned scholar. The Lord neglected Gadadhara Pandit for a few days because of his associating with Vallabhabhata. Actually, he was not at all displeased with Gadadhara Pandit. Indeed, because Gadadhara Pandit is the personal potency of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there is no chance of the Lord's being dissatisfied with him. However, a person who is too attached to externals cannot understand the deep meaning of these dealings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. If one therefore becomes disrespectful to Gadadhara Pandit, he will surely be vanquished. Text 171. There, Vallabhabhata took permission from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and his desire to be initiated by Gadadhara Pandit was thus fulfilled. I have thus explained the Lord's meeting with Vallabhabhata. By hearing of this incident, one can achieve the treasure of love for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Rupa Raghunatha Padayara Asha Chaitanya Charitamrita Kahe Krishna Dasa. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishna Das, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in their footsteps. Hare Krishna. So we have a few minutes left, and if you like, you can ask questions or share reflections. If you wish to say anything, please raise your hand. Yes?
Hare Krishna. And therefore, according to the scripture, Lord Chaitanya was a very direct personality and one who understood the compassion and love of Krishna within his actions, would have understood that even in his direct, even harsh chastism, that he would have still only been acting in devotional service to the Lord.
I couldn't follow. Maybe you can, I think you can take off your mask for asking the question.
I could be asking for a reiteration. So it was the secondary character, the secondary personality mentioned in the scripture that allowed for the tertiary, the student, to understand that though he was chastised and neglected by Lord Chaitanya, that it was actually out of love and compassion and devotion that Lord Chaitanya was the way he was in chastising.
Yes. In the case of Vallabhabhata, Lord Chaitanya neglected him because Vallabhabhata was falsely proud, and so Lord Chaitanya wanted to curb his false pride by neglecting him. But Vallabhabhata took shelter of Gadadhara Pandit, which put Gadadhara Pandit in an awkward situation, because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was neglecting him, but Vallabhabhata acted in such a submissive and affectionate way with Gadadhar Pandit. Gadadhar Pandit couldn't neglect him, although Lord Chaitanya was neglecting him. And so, outwardly, Lord Chaitanya appeared to be displeased with Gadadhar Pandit because he was entertaining Vallabhabhata when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself was neglecting him. But inwardly, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was pleased with Gadadhar Pandit. And in the end, everyone was happy. Vallabhabhata's desire to be initiated by Gadadhar Pandit was fulfilled. And he invited Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for dinner. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted his invitation. So in the end, everyone was happy. Any other questions?
Hare Krishna Prabhu Maharaj. So Gadadhar Pandit is Radharani?
Yes.
But Lord Chaitanya is also Radharani and Krishna?
Yes.
Oh, could you elaborate?
In fact, yes, Lord Chaitanya is Krishna in the mood of Srimati Radharani. And Gadadhar Pandit, to give Chaitanya Mahaprabhu space to exhibit the mood of Srimati Radharani, did not assert himself in the mood of Srimati Radharani. And rather he adopted the mood more of Srimati Rukmini Devi. So that Lord Chaitanya would have the space to exhibit the mood of Srimati Radharani. And Krishna was born, as we know, on Janmashtami. Ashtami is like half of a moon. And Radharani appeared on Radhastami, is also the other half of the moon. And Gadadhar Pandit appeared on Amavasya, that's like no moon, because he was like removing himself. And Lord Chaitanya was born on the full moon. So like the two halves of Krishna Janmashtami and Radhastami, those two halves were combined, and that became the full moon of Lord Chaitanya.
See the parallel here of Mahaprabhu kind of neglecting Vallabhacharya. He also neglecting Maharaj Prataparudra. But Maharaj Prataparudra got the mercy and the audience of Mahaprabhu through the grace of Ramananda Rai and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So was Maharaj Prataparudra's apparent neglect by Mahaprabhu, is it because of his pride? Or do we see a parallel here between that and Vallabhacharya?
No, Maharaj Prataparudra was very humble. He didn't really have any fault. His only fault was that he was a king. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as a sannyasi, was setting the example of avoiding associating with a king or someone who would be considered to be worldly. Although in his heart, King Prataparuja was not worldly. And as you know, in the end, Lord Chaitanya was merciful to King Prataparuja and gave him his audience during the Rath Yatra festival. And although he was omniscient and knew everything, but when King Prataparuja approached him, as it's described in Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the dress of a Vaishnav, Lord Chaitanya pretended he didn't know it was the king. And then when Maharaj Prataparuja started singing the Gopi Gita from Srimad Bhagavatam, and he came to the verse Tavakatamritam Tapta Jivanam, Lord Chaitanya embraced him and he said, "You are Buri Dajana, you are Buri Dajana. You are most munificent because you are distributing Krishna Katha." So yeah, that was different. That wasn't related to any spiritual disqualification in Maharaj Prataparuja, like pride in the case of Vallabhabhata, but just because he was a king. Yes?
Thank you, Maharaj. What is the lesson for us based on Gadadhara Pandit's behavior in this pastime?
What do you think the lesson is?
I guess if I thought about it, I would understand. Whatever Krishna gives to us, or whatever the spiritual master gives to us, is mercy and should be accepted as mercy and tolerated, even if it makes us feel uncomfortable.
That's a good lesson to derive from the pastime. Yeah.
Even once, thank you very much, Maharaj, for a wonderful class. Once, Srila Prabhupada refused to meet Morarji Desai. That was a Prime Minister of India at that time. What was the reason for that?
Yeah, there was a big discussion about whether Srila Prabhupada should meet him. And in the course of the discussion, Srila Prabhupada referred to this consideration of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's in refusing to meet King Prataparudra. But there was another issue, which was that Srila Prabhupada thought that Morarji Desai should come to meet him. And Srila Prabhupada said, not because I'm proud, but by his coming to meet me, he'll show that he has the proper attitude of respect and will be able to benefit from his meeting with me. And, whether it was circumstantial or whatever the reason was, Morarji Desai did not come to meet Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada sent Tamal Krishna Goswami and I and me to meet him, which we did.
Experienced differently. Do you think that possibly if Lord Vallabhata had shown compassion within himself for Lord Chaitanya, he would have understood the way that Lord Chaitanya was with him and therefore accepted the initiation from him instead of Gadadhara?
Well, you're asking why he took initiation from Gadadhara Pandit and not Lord Chaitanya?
Yes.
He had that relationship with Gadadhara Pandit. Yeah, somehow Gadadhara Pandit was very merciful to him. And so he felt within his heart that he should take initiation from Gadadhara Pandit. But I didn't mention it earlier, I just alluded to it indirectly. But Pundarik Vidyanidhi, from whom Gadadhara Pandit took initiation, and in Krishna Lila again, Gadadhara Pandit is Srimati Radharani, and Pundarik Vidyanidhi is Srimati Radharani's father, Vrishabhanu. So he was acting like a very materialistic person, living very opulently, and so when Gadadhara Pandit met him, he was taken aback by his apparently materialistic lifestyle, opulent lifestyle. And then the devotee who was with Gadadhara Pandit, who I believe was Mukunda, he recited some verses from Srimad Bhagavatam. And when Pundarik Vidyanidhi heard these verses, he went into ecstatic love. You know, he manifested symptoms of ecstatic love for Krishna. And then Gadadhara Pandit realized that he had very much misunderstood Pundarik Vidyanidhi. And he thought that to counteract his offenses against Pundarik Vidyanidhi, he should take initiation from him, which he did.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Guru Bhakti Mataji.
So here we see that Gadadhar Pandit felt awkward when Vallabha Bhatta took shelter of him because Mahaprabhu had neglected him. So when the spiritual master neglects a devotee, and how should we behave? What is the etiquette to relate with the devotee for us as Vaishnavas?
How should we relate to a devotee who's being neglected by the devotee's spiritual master?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it would depend. And the same spiritual master as you? Or not necessarily the same spiritual master? Not the same. Well, there's a lot of factors to consider. Your relationship with the devotee, why the spiritual master is neglecting the devotee, what the spiritual master is trying to teach the devotee through neglecting him. Because we don't want to run at cross purposes with the spiritual master. We don't want to undermine what the spiritual master is trying to do. But at the same time, we can also, help that devotee to understand, why the spiritual master is neglecting him. Maybe give him some advice how to improve his relationship with the spiritual master so that his spiritual master will not continue to neglect him. I think it would be a service to the devotee to help the devotee come closer to his spiritual master. Yes, Rasikandra Prabhu.
Here you were saying that Lord Chaitanya is addressed as Gadadhar's Lord Chaitanya, Gaur Gadadhar, or Gadayar Gaur.
Yeah, good.
But we find that was true during Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's time when he worshipped Lord Chaitanya. He had the deities of Gaur Gadadhar. Even in Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's time, the prominent deities, they were typically worshipped as Gaur Gadadhar. But in Srila Prabhupada's time, in Iskcon's time, we don't see that. We worship Gaur Nitai. So can you throw some light on that matter?
Yes, we are very fortunate to worship Gaur Nitai because Lord Nityananda is most merciful and we need his mercy. And Gaur Nitai, yeah, they're most merciful. I mean, the relationship between Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda is like brothers. And and Srila Prabhupada said that he established the Krishna Balaram temple in Vrindavan to show that Gaur Nitai and Krishna Balaram are not different, and for other reasons also. So, I think Gaur Nitai is perfect for us. Srila Prabhupada knew just what we needed, and he gave us just what we needed. All right, so what's the schedule?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. The schedule is, I guess, however long you want to go until 9 p.m. the curtains open for darshan. But if you're done, then there is prasadam outside, and also your books are outside available for those who would like to.
All right. Well, I think we can end the class now. I've said what I wanted to say, and the devotees have said what they wanted to say. So that's fine.
Okay. So, thank you, Maharaj, for the wonderful class. Haribo! And also just a reminder, tomorrow evening, Maharaj will be giving an initiation to some devotees in the community here in the temple room. The initiation program will start with 5:30 p.m. with Arati and Kirtan, and 6 o'clock Maharaj will be giving a class, initiation class, followed by Yajna in front of the Gauranga Hall at 7 o'clock. So please come and join and bless, give your prayers and blessings for all the devotees who are being initiated. And right now, there is carry-out prasadam boxes that are available in the temple, in the dining hall here that you can pick up on your way out.
Where are the boxes?
In the dining hall.
Oh, okay.
And also, if as we have been announcing, Maharaj has some new books as well as the old books that Maharaj has written over the last few years. They are available. There is a book table right outside in the extended temple hall. So if you would like to get some of those books, depending on Maharaj's availability, he can also sign.
I will sign.
Yeah. So you can do that, and we'll see you tomorrow for the Sunday Feast program. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Shri Gadadhara Pandit ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.